worry about is that filtering system. In fact, those multiple filtering systems. Are they filtering out people that are perfectly well qualified, and are sort of unfairly filtering out people? And it's not necessarily true that they are, right? So, for example, if you're looking for a programmer that programs in C and in Python, then it's perfectly reasonable to look for keywords like Python and C. And that is a filtering system, but it's not necessarily unfair, right? So a programmer should know enough to put the kinds of languages that they know onto their resume. But it's gotten much more complicated than that. It's not just keyword searches, it's actual algorithms that go into it. And like many, many algorithms that I talk about in my book, they are just kind of assumed to be fair and objective because of their mathematical nature. But there's actually really no reason to believe that.
Well, because some person had to program the inputs as well. Can you give us some specific examples in which the math algorithms and the inputs that were put in hurts women, the poor, and minorities more than others?
So the example from my book is a personality test, which is not really clear exactly what the definition of success is. But as you say, the people who build these algorithms get to define success. And we can come back to that, but it's their agenda that they're inserting into that algorithm. There's nothing objective about that definition, right? So the personality test that I'm talking about, this is typically given to like minimum wage work companies. And in order to get an interview, you actually have to pass this test. If you get red lighted on this test, you just don't even get to the interview. And so the question becomes, what constitutes passing or failing this test? And I interviewed a man named Roland Beam, whose son failed this test. He asked his son, whose name is Kyle, like, Kyle, what happened? What kind of questions were on this test? And Kyle said, well, Dad, they were a lot like the questions that I was asked when I was being treated for bipolar disorder at the hospital. And that's when his father, who's a lawyer, said to himself, that's not legal. Under the Americans with Disability Act, it is illegal to force somebody into a health exam as part of a job application process. That's including a mental health exam. So that's become a class action lawsuit that Roland has filed on behalf of everyone who's ever taken this personality test, this specific one, and on the basis that it violates the ADA.
A lot of different industries use big data. They rely on algorithms. Pro sports teams, for instance, use it to recruit athletes. They might measure someone's vertical leap, their foot speed, all of that. How's what they're doing different from, say, companies' HR departments? Why is it okay for a pro sports team to use data, but not CBS?
Well, of course, it's a judgment call in all cases. But the thing I like about the sports example is that everyone sees the data. And in fact, that's what we do when we watch sports. We're looking at the data in real time. We argue on sports radio about whether something should have been counted as an error or a base hit in baseball. This is what we do on sports radio, which I listen to way too much. And moreover, it's relatively transparent, like how people are being judged and whether it's working or not. There's a feedback loop. So it's both accountable and it's transparent.
As a nation, the U.S. doesn't score especially high when it comes to math and science, right? Beyond the tech and the finance world, people seem to be a little bit scared of math and algorithms. It's kind of something they don't want to touch. In contrast to, say, people in Russia, China, or India. As a result, are we in the U.S. less skeptical of statistics and algorithms and what they might tell us than in other countries or other cultures?
That's a great question, and the answer is absolutely. I actually don't know how skeptical people are in other places. I think people in Eastern Europe are skeptical because they're skeptical, period, as people, right? But I would say that the fear of mathematics and the fear of not being expert enough to push back is absolutely at play here. When we say, oh, an algorithm told me that your score is 15 out of 100 and therefore you are bad at this, people simply just give up and believe it because they're like, I can't push back against a sophisticated mathematical thing like an algorithm. And the point I'm trying to make is it's just an opinion embedded in math. It's an opinion that you can push back against because you can demand accountability, especially if it affects your job or it affects your freedom. Like when it gets important enough, it's tantamount to a law, and you should know what the law is.
That was my conversation with Kathy O'Neill. She's the author of Weapons of Math Destruction. She's also the founder of Orca, which is an algorithm risk consulting company. Live on Capitol Hill.